The red-haired man reflects with distant eyes, calling it a beautiful dream, as if mourning something long lost. Blood drips from his lips while he admits a dark desire to destroy that dream, his expression twisted with regret. The golden-haired knight appears calm yet intense, standing firm with his sword ready as he observes the dying man. The red-haired man is impaled and suspended in the air, surrounded by burning spikes, his body scorched as flames rise. The blonde knight turns his back, sheathing his sword as embers swirl around him, showing no remorse. The red-haired man smiles faintly through the pain, whispering his regret, while the knight's face remains firm and unshaken under the glow. The blonde knight confirms the end with a calm expression, stating that the enemy is finally dead. As the body burns and crumbles, the narration marks this as the downfall of the greatest villain in the world of swords. The knight turns and walks away from the battlefield, the fire behind him symbolizing closure. Text reveals this is the epilogue, the final chapter of the villain's tale. In the real world, a man named Nam Woo-hyun relaxes at his desk, relieved after finishing the chapter. He reflects on the journey, noting how much time he invested in the story, but seems ready to finally move on. The young man stretches and gets up from his desk, thinking it's time to finally leave everything behind. As he walks through the quiet hallway, a sudden knocking sound echoes from the front door. He pauses, surprised by the unexpected noise at such a late hour. Curious and a bit unsettled, he turns toward the door and listens carefully. He cautiously approaches the door, wondering who would visit him this late at night. Stopping in front of the door, he peers toward it with growing unease, whispering to himself in confusion. He pauses in front of the door, confused as the knocking suddenly stops, leaving behind an eerie silence. Wondering if it was just a drunkard playing a prank, he starts to relax and dismiss the moment. Just as he turns away, a glowing paper unexpectedly floats down into his room from above. He stares at the paper curiously, wondering where it came from and why it's glowing so strangely. Unfolding it, he reads the message, "It's a gift. Please ask when you are in need," which only deepens his confusion. As he holds the paper, a red aura bursts forth from it, engulfing him in a sinister glow as shock floods his expression. A red glow erupts in the room, and a mysterious red-haired man with a dark aura suddenly appears, exuding overwhelming presence. The boy stares at the figure in terror, frozen in place as the surreal encounter intensifies before his eyes. Fear grips him as he struggles to comprehend what's happening, realizing he may be moments away from death. The red-haired man calmly watches, claiming he's invested significant time and energy into something unknown. He explains that 10 years of work shaped his blade to pierce the corrupted system and those behind it. As he approaches, he hints at a grand plan one born of anger, betrayal, and the ruins of his past. The red-haired man admits his failure, his voice tinged with regret, while the boy begins to piece together the truth behind the encounter. As the realization hits, the boy stammers in shock, questioning the identity of the figure and the meaning of his words. Dark energy erupts around him, engulfing his body as he screams in agony, overwhelmed by the painful force entering him. With a final piercing gaze, the red-haired man calmly pleads with him to take up the burden and finish what he could not. The boy's scream echoes as strange glitch-like distortions surge around him, signaling a supernatural shift as he's forcibly pulled away. His body plummets into a vast, glowing spider web, suspended in an endless void, his consciousness slipping further from reality. He suddenly awakens on a bed in a warmly lit room, blinking slowly as he tries to make sense of what just happened. Sitting upright in confusion, he clutches his head and questions whether he passed out, only to hear unfamiliar sounds around him. He stares down at his outfit in disbelief, completely unfamiliar with the clothes on his body as confusion sets in deeper. Looking around the room, he bolts up from the bed, realizing something is wrong and that he's not where he should be. He walks forward cautiously, scanning the surroundings as unease creeps over him, struggling to grasp what's happening. Stopping at the edge of the room, he peers outside through a tall window, stunned by the completely different world outside. A small smirk forms on his face as a wave of clarity hits. He can sense it. This place and this body are no longer foreign. With growing confidence, he acknowledges the truth. He now inhabits someone else's body, a body on the brink of death. Touching his chest, he confirms the strange symbol embedded into the skin, fully accepting that he has taken over this new vessel. He calmly reflects on his new identity, now inhabiting the body of Ashen Ardal, the most troublesome villain from his former world. Outside the estate, the setting sun casts a fiery glow over the imposing mansion, signifying the beginning of a darker chapter. He recalls Ashen's feared bloodline descendants of demons possessing terrifying strength but cursed with societal rejection. Now seated before the grand doors of the Ardal estate, he quietly mocks those who once wronged Ashen, a smirk forming as he plots revenge. He recalls how Ashen Ardal was created to be the perfect villain, cruel and tragic, doomed to fail from the beginning. Ashen's deep resentment toward his own family made him lash out, and that's what solidified him as a major antagonist in the original narrative. A glowing blue status window appears before him, allowing him to inspect his current abilities now that he's inside the character. He notices that despite being talented, this version of Ashen is far from complete. He was designed to be powerful, but never to win. He leans back thoughtfully, realizing that if he makes the same mistakes Ashen did before, he'll end up with the same doomed fate. Determined, he steels his resolve, vowing to rewrite Ashen's legacy and survive no matter what this world throws at him. A strange light glows on the table, catching his attention immediately as he wonders what it is. He recognizes the fiery glow as the same strange phenomenon that pulled him into this world earlier. Moving closer, he confirms that the flare hasn't disappeared. It's still active and faintly pulsing with power. He tries to interact with it, but gets frustrated when touching the tag yields no response. His irritation grows as the item doesn't react at all, making him wonder if it's part of some event he's supposed to trigger. Suddenly, glowing letters emerge on the object, revealing a message meant only for him. He angrily reacts upon seeing the message from the supposed creator, feeling mocked and powerless in the face of cryptic instructions. The glowing message instructs him to write down questions to receive answers, which only frustrates him further as it refuses to engage directly. A second message appears, explaining the information purchase system and warning that answers will cost him something valuable. Realizing he can't return to his world, he instead asks for detailed instructions on how to use Mana and Asal's traits. He kneels down and urgently writes his question, seeking to learn how to use Mana and Asal's abilities without delay. A message confirms that the question requires no payment, and Mana surges around him in a blinding wave of energy. He accepts the integration, and the knowledge is instantly embedded into his body and consciousness. Overwhelmed yet focused, he feels the flow of Mana and tests his control, amazed at the energy pulsing through him. His first trait, heightened senses, activates successfully, and he conjures a swirling dark orb, realizing its usefulness in what's to come. He unleashes a surge of crimson aura, successfully activating the trait linked to demonic energy experiments with his own body. With the aura flaring around him, he confirms the success and prepares to proceed with the next critical transformation. He selects a target to copy a blue-haired warrior using the potion transfer system to acquire that individual's physical form and appearance. Although the imitation has limits, he's confident the warrior's body will serve well for infiltration or combat purposes. Spotting a suit of armor nearby, he decides it's the perfect disguise to pair with the copied appearance. He activates the move function of the potion transfer system, initiating a teleportation process with blue energy wrapping around his form. The copied warrior's appearance surges with power as he begins to phase through space, preparing for instant relocation. With a burst of force, he vanishes into a beam of compressed energy, hurtling across dimensions toward his target location. He reappears midair above a stone floor, reacting in surprise as he realizes he's falling headfirst from the transition. Crashing to the ground, he winces in pain but quickly recovers as approaching footsteps echo through the corridor. He clenches his fists with determination, declaring he'll repeat this process as many times as needed to survive, his resolve unshaken. A group of armored horsemen charges forward, led by a heavily armed warrior who orders the group to make sure the red-haired man is eliminated this time. A chilling wind sweeps across the estate grounds as the Arson family manor looms under the moonlit sky. Bootsteps echo through the tiled halls as a group advances with purpose and authority. A tall man in a red cloak flanked by armored guards enters the manor, his arrival causing tension among the household members. The armored man identified as First County Captain Fellel demands answers, his stern expression pressuring those before him to reveal the red-haired man's location. One of the servants nervously informs the captain that the person they're searching for is inside the nearby room. Another maid hesitantly adds that he hasn't moved or shown any activity for the past few days. Captain Fellel reacts with a dismissive grunt, clearly unimpressed by the situation and expecting resistance. With tension building, the armored squad pushes forward and bursts into the room, catching a glimpse of someone waiting in the shadows. The boy sits calmly with glowing eyes, addressing Sir Feltz directly and challenging the notion that someone like him would be spared. Captain Feltz dismisses the boy's words with disdain, ordering his men to eliminate him without hesitation. Just as the knights rush forward, the boy activates a position transfer skill, instantly switching places with one of the soldiers, catching everyone off guard. The boy uses his position transfer move skill once more, vanishing in a flash of blue light and reappearing in a new spot mid-combat. In the blink of an eye, he closes the distance and strikes a knight with swift, brutal force, taking advantage of their confusion. Feltz and the surrounding soldiers react in shock, clearly unprepared for the boy's sudden assault and tactical prowess. The boy lands smoothly after his sudden attack, blood trailing behind him as he regains his stance, ready for the next move. Feltz, furious at the ambush, roars at his knights to stop standing around and orders them to capture the boy immediately. The knights rush forward with drawn swords, but the boy reacts swiftly, leaping back through shattered glass as magic energy pulses around him. The boy crashes through the stained glass window and uses a glowing movement skill mid-air, streaking through the night sky in a blur of blue energy. With another activation of position transfer, he repositions himself again, this time landing safely on solid ground as the glow surrounds his limbs. He exhales sharply, gritting his teeth in pain. While thinking of his next objective, he must reach the Arson forest at all costs. Behind him, Feltz yells out orders to pursue immediately, pointing toward the escaping figure as the knights take off in pursuit. The boy reaches the edge of Arson forest under the moonlit sky, its twisted trees cloaked in heavy mist, signaling the boundary of something dangerous. Breathing heavily, he dashes through the shadows, pushing his body beyond its limit as fear and determination drive his every step. He realizes that even if he escapes the knights now, surviving beyond their territory without a plan is hopeless. He needs a better option. Instead of running aimlessly, he decides to pass through a hidden gate leading to the demonic realm, which has suffered massive damage from the ongoing war with humans. He thinks that if he can display enough strength, the demons might consider taking him in despite being human. Suddenly, he stops and looks around nervously, realizing he may have been followed sooner than expected. Voices echo through the forest as knights fan out to locate him, closing the distance quickly. He recalls that the information he read never pinpointed the gate's exact location, which now poses a serious problem. Determined, he presses forward through the dark woods, only to step onto a dry branch, snapping it loudly and giving away his position. His eyes widen as he senses danger, realizing too late that his presence has been discovered. A bright surge of energy crashes down nearby, shaking the ground and sending out shockwaves. A powerful knight emerges from the light, calling out to him with disdain and confirming he's been found. Debris scatters as the impact of the energy blast clears, leaving destruction in its wake. He pushes forward with urgency, aware he only has a limited number of position transfers left to escape. Frustration builds as he realizes the forest's layout offers no clear path, and panic begins to creep in. A system prompt offers the exact gate location for a steep price in gold or high-tier artifacts. Outraged and helpless, he yells in frustration, knowing he has nothing of value to pay that cost right now. A violent burst of energy crashes down, engulfing the area in a blinding green explosion as the enemy attacks with overwhelming force. The protagonist is sent flying from the impact, crashing to the ground with a painful thud, barely able to recover. As he groans in pain, a glowing green sword pierces the space beside him, pinning him down both physically and mentally. The armored pursuer approaches calmly, declaring that escape is no longer an option and that death is inevitable, whether the protagonist accepts it or not. Bloodied and defiant, the protagonist snarls at his enemy, rejecting the idea of dying here and forcing himself to stand despite the pain. He clenches his fist, steeling his resolve as he acknowledges there's one final method left to attempt, no matter the risk. Summoning his remaining power, he prepares to activate a mysterious ability, gambling everything on this last desperate move. The armored man watches with a mix of respect and disdain, acknowledging the protagonist's will to resist as befitting someone who once held power. The protagonist taunts his enemies with sarcasm, mocking their pride for ganging up on a single young target and suggesting they become babysitters instead. His words infuriate the armored enemy, who had initially planned a painless end but now decides to make it hurt in response to the disrespect. With his sword engulfed in red energy, the armored man vows to pierce the protagonist's heart using the weapon bestowed upon him by Count Leon. The armored enemy lunges forward with a deadly strike, his sword glowing red as he roars for the protagonist's death. The protagonist keeps his focus, waiting for the perfect moment, his expression tense but unwavering in resolve. With a sudden surge of energy, he activates his power, unleashing a brilliant burst of light in a desperate counterattack. A glowing interface confirms the protagonist's payment, acknowledging that his offering barely meets the required value. As the system activates, he becomes enveloped in a brilliant blue light, signaling the opening of the portal. The armored enemy looks on in disbelief as the protagonist grins confidently, revealing his plan is in motion. Before the enemy can react, a blinding beam shoots forth, shocking him and cutting off any chance to stop the escape. A blinding orange portal bursts open, its energy crackling through the air as the protagonist gazes at it with urgency. Without hesitation, he triggers his position transfer ability, vanishing into a streak of motion. He streaks across the battlefield toward the portal, leaving a trail of light as his enemies realize what's happening. The armored foe roars in desperation, commanding him to stop, but it's already too late. The escape is in motion. He dashes through the darkness, his body glowing with teleportation energy as he tries to outrun the pursuers closing in. As he sprints forward, he spots the fiery gate in the distance and can't believe they're actually guiding him to the real location. With the portal now in sight, he makes a desperate leap toward it only for the armored man to lunge behind him, refusing to let him escape. The armored man lunges toward him, but the youth slips past with a burst of speed, heading straight for the blazing portal ahead. He soars through the air, light streaking around him, As the fiery gate pulls him closer, his escape now within reach. With one last look back, he channels energy through his body and declares a parting promise, vanishing into the light. The armored knight stares in disbelief as his opponent vanishes into the swirling vortex, a subordinate's voice calling his name in the chaos. Watching helplessly, he clenches his fists while the portal closes, unable to stop the youth's escape into the unknown. His frustration erupts as he realizes the boy has entered the demonic realm, a place few dare to approach, let alone return from. A solitary figure stands in the desolate landscape beyond the gate, the skies crimson, signaling the beginning of a perilous journey. The scene opens in eerie silence as blue mist floats through a dark space, signaling the protagonist's awakening in an unfamiliar realm. He slowly opens his eyes, startled by his new surroundings, and wonders how much time has passed since the portal transported him. Sitting upright, he takes in the cave-like chamber, noting the unfamiliar structure and mystical glow around him. He reflects on the possibility that the demonic realm may have altered the flow of time, causing a delay in perception. Turning his gaze, he's stunned to see a massive, glowing blue creature, its sheer size and presence overwhelming the room. Just as he begins to study it, a sudden flash of energy erupts behind him, catching him off guard. The protagonist reads a message on the scroll, confirming that he has fulfilled a certain condition and barely passed the requirement. He quietly acknowledges the cost he's paid, fully aware that the consequences will follow him as he journeys deeper into the unknown. As the narration ends, he gazes at the scroll with a resigned expression, already calculating what lies ahead. He expresses frustration, knowing there's little time to rest or recover, and prepares himself for the trials awaiting him. Noticing something odd, he turns toward a stone wall, sensing a strange energy radiating from it. As his hand reaches toward it, a deep voice echoes through the room, warning him that he lacks the qualification. The moment hangs tense, and he realizes there's some deeper system or power judging his presence. With a calm but disappointed expression, he admits defeat, understanding the restriction and accepting the outcome without resistance. The protagonist ponders his next step, realizing he must find another method to escape his current confinement. He notices a glowing stone on the ground and speculates it might have come from the Guardian, wondering if it could be useful. As he holds the stone, a system message appears and designates a teleportation target, activating a glowing portal around him. The teleportation process begins, engulfing him in swirling energy as the system initiates the position transfer. Landing successfully in a new location, he cheers in relief and excitement, thrilled that his risky gamble has paid off. A massive beast suddenly lunges toward the protagonist, catching him off guard with its gaping jaws and fierce presence. In another realm, a sinister black sun hangs over a dark fortress as eerie energy radiates across the landscape, signaling ominous power. Inside a vast cathedral, a sharp voice scolds someone recklessly shouting, demanding silence in the sacred space. A man on the balcony glares down, clearly irritated, asserting authority over the chamber as sunlight cuts through the stained windows. Below, a nervous onlooker reacts to the rebuke, startled and unsure how to respond under the intense gaze from above. The black-robed figure named Orf is introduced, standing with authority as one of the 12 apostles of the Demon King's army. He steps down confidently from the raised platform, his demeanor calm yet calculating as the situation around him escalates. Orf quietly assesses the growing problem, scratching his chin while thinking through his next move. He sits alone at a war table, pondering how to prevent his forces from engaging with the intruder too soon. Recognizing the threat, Orf concludes that someone from the outer realm has slipped past the guards and entered their domain undetected. His expression darkens as he realizes this could expose flaws in their border defenses, hinting at internal consequences. An aide suddenly rushes in, calling his name with urgency, likely to report on the ongoing breach or ask for orders. Orf narrows his eyes, lost in thought as he speculates on the nature of the intruder who dared to enter their domain uninvited. The subordinate standing below bows respectfully and apologizes, admitting that they still haven't located the source of the intrusion. Orf responds with restrained annoyance, pointing out how ridiculous it is that someone infiltrated the area without detection. The young subordinate speculates whether the intruder is one of the individuals rumored to be involved with the upper echelons. Orf silently places his hand on the table, considering the possibilities while keeping his frustration in check. The subordinate warns that if the intruder escapes again, Orf may be forced to take responsibility for the breach. Outside the window, the guards are shown searching the perimeter with urgency, but so far, the intruder remains completely hidden. The magic explodes violently around him, sending blue energy crackling through the air as the force throws him backward in shock. He lands roughly, gasping in disbelief at the intensity of the impact, realizing just how close he came to being killed by the activation. Still seated, he looks up at the glowing platform, finally understanding the rune configuration and calculating its power output with awe. A thought strikes him: if the Guardian was made of stone, just like the platform, then perhaps this method could apply to it as well. With growing excitement, he clenches his fist and steadies himself, determined to test his theory and move forward with a new plan. He steps onto the glowing rune as the position transfer activates again, surrounding him with pulsing light as the mechanism kicks into motion. Suddenly, he's transported above the winged guardian statue, now fully focused and confident in his plan as he prepares for the next move. A magical beast materializes beside him, its form shimmering with blue energy, echoing his control over the teleportation system. He stares at the surprised beast below, realizing it's unaware of what's about to happen and using that moment to his advantage. With precise timing, he leaps down from above, landing with a loud impact as energy bursts around him from the surprise descent. Landing smoothly, he tightens his grip on the weapon and prepares to strike, knowing that the next move could end this confrontation. He watches as the magical attack fails to make an impact, realizing the enemy's defenses are far more formidable than expected. Turning serious, he analyzes the beast's aura and acknowledges that it's more dangerous than the previous one he encountered. With a spark of resolve, he commands another transfer, initiating a glowing cube to form around him as the process activates. Surrounded by a pillar of light, he prepares to reposition himself, using the mechanism to get closer while minimizing risk. As the light fades, he sprints forward at full speed, glowing with blue energy, ready to deliver a decisive strike. He steps through the glowing portal, only to be greeted by an ominous voice that acknowledges his arrival as a sign of the end. Looking around confused, he wonders who just spoke, uncertain if the voice was addressing him directly. He starts questioning the setting, sensing something isn't right about the environment and its strange aura. A skeletal warrior in black armor slowly emerges from the shadows, exuding intense, murderous intent. Realizing the enemy is a Death Knight, he instantly assesses the danger based on its terrifying presence and high threat level. With dark energy swirling, the Death Knight declares his resolve for battle, just as the system activates a new designation. The Death Knight remains suspended in the magical barrier, his presence heavy and ominous as tension builds. He spots a mysterious treasure box resting alone in the chamber and cautiously approaches it. Observing closely, he notices the box bears a black dragon emblem and is secured with ornate metalwork. As he examines it, a sense of familiarity strikes him. He's seen that emblem before and starts recalling its meaning. He finally identifies the black dragon as a symbol of a high-ranking demon family associated with sin, triggering his realization. The image of the black dragon manifests, radiating overwhelming malice and power, a being described as the embodiment of evil itself. Realizing the danger, the young man curses under his breath, instantly recognizing the gravity of the threat he's awakened. He concludes that the only option left is to open the treasure box, hoping it holds a means to counter the looming death. With urgency, he slams his hand onto the box, triggering a violent surge of dark energy that bursts upward like a vortex. The energy slams into him, lifting his body off the ground as dark tendrils lash around his form uncontrollably. Writhing in pain, he clutches his arm, gritting his teeth while trying to resist the corruption coursing through him. A violent surge of dark energy envelops the young man, causing him to scream in agony as the corruption spreads uncontrollably through his body. Gripping his head in desperation, he lets out a tortured cry while a wave of blood explodes violently from his mouth, signaling a loss of control. His body collapses backward, blood splattering across the floor as he falls unconscious, consumed by the overwhelming force. The young man regains consciousness in a pool of blood, gasping for breath as he lies on the cold ground, disoriented. He slowly sits up, still weak, and wonders how much time has passed since he blacked out during the overwhelming power surge. Blood tears trail down his face as he realizes something went wrong. His body is still suffering from a violent backlash. A glowing panel appears before him, listing his current status and abilities, revealing the aftermath of the power overload. Despite the injury, he smiles slightly, noting that he has at least gained a new skill, the ability to manipulate mana with the Eye of Superbia. Determined to push forward, he steadies himself and begins moving, knowing he must regain control and continue his mission. Dark silhouettes of monsters emerge beyond a hidden door, reminding the young man of the danger still lurking inside this dungeon. Realizing the exit is now more critical than ever, he acknowledges that staying any longer might cost him his life. As he gathers himself, he plans to move at top speed and hide the ominous insignia glowing on his hand to avoid drawing attention. The Death Knight roars impatiently, demanding the door be opened, his presence growing more menacing by the second. Startled, the young man turns at the sudden sound, sensing something strange about the knight's behavior. A second entity bursts forth, this one even more terrifying, and the young man is left frozen in confusion at the unexpected arrival. The young man ponders the odd behavior of the skeletons, suspecting the dungeon might belong to someone from a prestigious mage family. Determined to uncover the truth, he examines the surrounding clues and wonders if the dungeon has a designated owner. As a system notification appears, he learns the information he's about to access has a steep mana cost. He initiates the process, knowing it'll consume a large portion of his mana, but he's prepared to go through with it. A message finally appears, identifying the dungeon's closest related figure, someone linked to the prestigious Baines family. A powerful woman cloaked in light steps forward, exuding overwhelming authority as the air grows tense. The protagonist freezes, dread filling his eyes as he silently panics over the danger he now faces. He quickly realizes she's a human creation acting as a guardian, indicating the dungeon's true origin. A system alert confirms the presence of someone from the Baines family with enough authority to command this guardian. The massive figure charges, launching a fierce attack while the protagonist narrowly evades, confirming he's now the target. A shadowy figure charges forward, energy crackling around them as they descend toward the protagonist. Determined, the protagonist braces himself and declares his resolve to face the threat head-on. The armored woman halts her attack, her glowing eyes narrowing as she questions his identity. He falls to one knee, breathless and overwhelmed by the immense pressure radiating from her. She acknowledges him with a cryptic statement, saying he has finally become worthy of something greater. Hovering in a shroud of violet energy, she demands an explanation, her tone both commanding and curious. The protagonist realizes that the dark power lingering in him has made him an ideal host for the Black Dragon. He questions whether the entity speaking to him is truly the infamous spectral guardian he had heard of. The mysterious woman calmly confirms her identity, acknowledging that appearances can be deceiving. Trying to lighten the tension, the protagonist admits he's not in the best shape and hopes it won't cost him his life. She walks closer with a hint of familiarity, recognizing him from a previous encounter that he seems to have forgotten. Suddenly, a powerful surge of blue energy bursts forth, startling her as she senses something unexpected. The mysterious woman evaluates his performance and expresses confidence in his potential as a capable protector from now on. He looks surprised and somewhat confused by her affirmation, trying to process the sudden praise. She softens her tone and acknowledges his improvement, noting his increased control and calmness in battle. With their conversation wrapped up, she suggests they move on and leave the current area behind. He agrees, but adds that he still has lingering doubts and questions about the strange powers he used earlier. Meanwhile, a red-haired woman in a different location vows not to be late, hinting at an important upcoming encounter. A horned girl glances toward the commotion, her expression turning cautious as she grips her weapon tightly. She turns to face a red-haired boy who seems to recognize someone in the distance, his voice laced with concern. The boy calls out, "Father," while staring toward a looming group near a crimson eclipse, tension building in his posture. A mysterious figure with spiked hair and a confident grin appears, flanked by others in matching uniforms, exuding dominance. The red-haired boy gasps in shock, realizing it's truly his father, yet confusion sets in as the man shows no emotion. Struggling to understand the silence, the boy questions why his father isn't reacting, as if something unnatural is holding him back. A stern-looking man questions the group, demanding to know whether they completed the power succession ceremony. The horned girl confirms with a quiet but steady voice, answering that the ceremony was indeed completed. Without further explanation, the man instructs them to follow him, his tone commanding and unreadable. Confused and suspicious, the red-haired boy wonders about the man's intentions as he reluctantly begins to walk. Footsteps echo as the group trails behind, the tension rising with every silent step through the reddish-lit corridor. The red-haired boy reflects inwardly, realizing that despite his doubts, this path may be his only chance to reach true power. The group arrives at a towering structure illuminated by a crimson glow, its eerie grandeur confirming it's the snake's mansion. The horned man stands imposingly at the entrance, his presence alone demanding attention and respect. He orders some of the others to return to their duties, quickly dismissing them from the hall. Turning to the red-haired boy, he tells him to stay behind and wait until he is summoned. The boy clenches his fists as he watches the others leave, sensing a window of opportunity opening before him. But he quickly shakes the thought away, acknowledging with bitter resolve that rushing in now would be suicide. The doors creak open to reveal a richly lit interior, casting a warm glow over the space as the character enters with measured steps. At the far end, a powerful figure sits confidently behind a desk, exuding authority as he prepares to speak. He acknowledges the completion of the previous mission and immediately shifts focus to a new proposition. The horned woman, standing poised and firm, listens as he asks whether she's interested in joining the Tinian faculty. Without hesitation, she affirms, signaling her readiness to move forward. The man reclines in his chair, satisfied with her answer, contemplating the next phase. He then shifts the conversation, inquiring about the red-haired boy and how he's progressing. The horned woman reflects on the red-haired boy's earlier display of raw, surging energy, confirming his remarkable potential. She calmly states her assessment: he's strong, leaving little room for doubt about his capabilities. The man behind the desk leans back with a pleased expression, clearly impressed by her evaluation. As he listens, he acknowledges her insights and shifts the conversation with quiet admiration for her perspective. Outside the room, the boy lights up with excitement, reacting cheerfully to being praised and acknowledged. Back inside, the man notes the boy's potential and muses that while his power is notable, He still lacks control, but that too can be honed. Meanwhile, he stands under the darkened sky, growing impatient and confused, quietly questioning how long he must continue waiting for answers or direction. The scene opens with a majestic castle-like structure bathed in the orange glow of dusk, hinting at authority and hidden power within. Two young men walk down a grand hall, the flicker of chandeliers guiding them as one calmly instructs the other to follow. A heavy door creaks open as the boy is formally presented to the patriarch, suggesting the importance of this meeting. At the end of the room, a horned figure with piercing golden eyes and a sly smile awaits, clearly intrigued and amused by the arrival. The red-haired boy stands uneasily, wondering what game the patriarch is playing by keeping him alive despite knowing everything. As he steps closer, he boldly asks why he was spared, facing the dark figure head-on without backing down. The patriarch sneers, calling him a bastard and revealing the deception involving his daughter, his voice laced with venom and betrayal. In a burst of explosive purple energy, the room erupts in fury as the patriarch unleashes his power, roaring in rage. The boy screams in pain as the overwhelming wave of demonic energy engulfs him, his body trembling under the pressure. He collapses onto the ground, coughing and groaning, barely able to resist the oppressive force weighing down on him. With gritted teeth and defiance, he shouts back, accusing the patriarch of holding back, realizing this isn't a killing blow. The patriarch watches calmly, his expression unreadable, the dark energy swirling around him like a living shadow. Barely able to stand, the boy pants heavily, awestruck by the sheer intensity of the demonic energy he just endured. The horned man leans forward with a smug expression, impressed by the boy's quick response and curiosity under pressure. The boy stands firm despite his exhaustion and introduces himself as Adele, steadying his voice with resolve. The patriarch repeats his name thoughtfully, a mysterious glow flickering around his hand as he channels dark power. Without warning, Adele is suddenly enveloped by a dark force, his body lifting into the air as the energy takes hold once again. The horned man grabs Adele and suspends him mid-air with a dark aura, speaking his name with a sinister tone as his powers begin to swirl ominously. Adele, caught off guard and visibly terrified, demands to know what the man wants from him, his voice cracking under pressure. The horned man, eyes glowing, commands Adele to open his mouth, preparing for some kind of forceful transfer or ritual. With a terrifying grin, he explains that Adele simply needs to continue what he started with his daughter, causing a mysterious dark energy to invade Adele's body as he gasps and struggles in pain. The horned man issues a chilling warning, declaring that if Adele harbors any deceitful intentions, the poison within him will shred his heart. Adele writhes in agony as the dark energy courses through him, screaming in pain from the violent internal assault. The horned man calmly tells Adele that arrangements will be made for his stay and instructs him to wait quietly until summoned again. Tossed aside like a discarded object, Adele struggles to understand the bizarre turn of events, gasping in confusion as he clutches his chest. The scene shifts to a quiet building under a dark sky, where the red-haired man arrives at his new residence under silent escort. He's told that this place will be his home from now on, marking the beginning of a forced new chapter in unfamiliar territory. Reflecting in solitude, he acknowledges that he's only here due to the horned man's decision to spare him. While settling in, he admits a strange sense of recognition from Crete and sees a possible silver lining in the situation. As he sits on the bed, he contemplates that despite everything, this might be a chance one rooted in survival, but possibly opportunity too. The red-haired man urgently tries to remove a glowing seal embedded in his chest, determined to sever its connection. Focusing his energy, he successfully extracts the object, which emits a radiant blue light as he confirms it was dormant all along. Holding it in his palm, he breathes in relief, aware that failure could have meant instant death under the demon's poison. However, the artifact begins to stir again, its link to his body still active, hinting at a deeper mechanism keeping it alive. Just then, a shadowy hand appears, offering something with a command to eat this, leaving him stunned and alert. The red-haired man feeds the serpent-like creature to keep it calm, watching its fangs retract as it finally settles down. Relieved, he collapses onto the bed, finally able to rest, though thoughts of the deadly poison on his throat linger in his mind. As sleep approaches, he mutters about how much of the trap may have been deactivated, his energy clearly waning. He calls up his status window, revealing his race, talents, and skill levels, highlighting his progress and lingering issues. Despite achieving a level up in position transfer, his mana remains low, leaving him pondering how to increase it. The red-haired man stirs in his sleep, lost in thought as he desperately searches for a way to improve his mana. Suddenly, he remembers a potential method, his mind lighting up with realization even in the haze of exhaustion. He finds himself face to face with a cold-eyed girl who bluntly voices her dislike, throwing him off balance. Reflecting on his role as her guard for the past 3 days, he recalls her once bright personality, now dulled after her mother was taken by humans. The two continue walking through the garden, the boy watching Renee in silence, reflecting on her cold demeanor with a hint of empathy. They're interrupted by a call from a servant, informing them that the patriarch has summoned them both. The boy seems surprised, but quickly realizes it must be about Renee's application to enter Satan, given her recent accomplishments. Although she proved her capability by successfully raiding the domain, Crete did not grant her the approval she had hoped for. The patriarch warns Renee that Satan is too dangerous for her current strength and that she would likely die before achieving her revenge. As the tension builds, Adele feels completely out of place, watching the conversation unfold with unease. The patriarch offers a condition Renee can attend Satan, but only if she accepts Adele as her personal guard. Renee immediately refuses, while Adele silently realizes just how deep her resentment toward him runs. The narration reveals that Satan is a prestigious academy for elite children of the demonic realm. A dark history is revealed. Satan was in constant conflict with the Imperial School, resulting in the deaths of many students, including Renee in the original timeline. Adele watches Renee with concern, unable to grasp why she insists on going to such a perilous place. He reflects on the danger, but realizes Satan might be the perfect place for him to build strength and allies for the battles ahead. Adele acknowledges his knowledge of future events and resolves to face Satan's challenges head-on, determined to change the outcome. However, before committing, he turns to the patriarch with a serious expression and says he has a request to make. Adele steels himself, knowing that if he's going to Satan, he might as well negotiate something in return. He calmly brings up a request related to mana, surprising the patriarch who had expected a plea for freedom. Internally, Adele notes that the patriarch is unaware the parasite is already neutralized, giving him a strategic advantage. Amused but dismissive, the patriarch mocks Adele's boldness, calling him arrogant but agrees to hear him out since the request isn't too demanding. He then orders Renee to leave the room, and she quietly obeys, exiting with a nod. Adele quietly wonders if Renee's cold reaction means she truly despises the idea of traveling with him. As he stands alone, he speculates about what kind of mana-related item the patriarch might offer, hoping for something useful like an artifact. The patriarch unexpectedly offers a treasure that holds deep familial significance, revealing he sent his daughter away with reluctance. With a glow of ominous purple magic, the patriarch prepares to hand it over, justifying his generosity by saying Adele will be risking his life in Renee's place. Bathed in intense purple energy, the patriarch beckons Adele forward, offering to transfer the bear's family's secret mana cultivation technique directly to him. Adele stares in disbelief, shocked by the unexpected gift and overwhelmed by the power radiating from the technique about to be bestowed. The character braces himself as a torrent of mana crashes through his body, struggling to endure the immense force of the cultivation technique being transferred. In a burst of purple energy, the transfer continues, pushing his limits. He grits his teeth, knowing that this gift could shape his path forward. Once the process ends, he falls to his knees, panting heavily. The pain is evident, but so is the resolve in his expression. The man watching him remarks that a lesser person would have been destroyed by such a force, subtly impressed by the boy's endurance. Rising with some effort, the boy speaks humbly, acknowledging the risk, but also the value in what he's been given, determined to put it to use. The man then adds that he gave the technique because he's curious to see what the boy will do next, suggesting that he sees potential worth watching. He reflects on the dark truth that his future self from the novel died shortly after entering Satan, warning him how dangerous the path ahead is. Receiving permission to leave, he accepts it with a quiet resolve, preparing for what lies ahead. He finds a secluded stone circle in the forest, choosing it as a spot to begin his training in secret. With determined eyes, he decides to start cultivating here, where no one will interrupt or interfere with his progress. Activating the mana cultivation technique, a deep aura envelops him, signaling the start of an intense transformation. He feels a surge as his body begins to absorb mana efficiently, marking his first true step toward becoming a real magic user. He calmly acknowledges that the mana flow is much stronger here than expected, feeling confident about his progress. Suddenly, a terrifying presence with glowing eyes emerges from the darkness, calling him a mongrel. Startled and confused, he senses something deeply wrong and begins to fear what this being might be. The dark entity mocks him, saying he's unworthy and will never be able to endure the path he's chosen. He steadies himself and questions the presence, asking if it is the feared demon ghost mentioned in legends. The dark entity ominously confirms that he is the infamous demon ghost who once shook the world. Jin Eon, both cautious and curious, asks if the being intends to kill him now. The demon ghost replies that if Jin Eon runs, he'll kill him, but if he stays, there might be a chance. Instead of fleeing, Jin Eon braces himself and declares that he won't give up, regardless of the threat. He suddenly unleashes a burst of energy, determined to prove he's not afraid to face the demon ghost head-on. Seeing the resolve in his eyes, the demon ghost acknowledges his courage, but warns that true strength comes only through risking one's life with mana. Lee Jin Eon reflects that mana is like a battlefield. Its power is shaped by how much risk one dares to take. As he walks through the forest, he hears a sound that catches his attention, making him pause. Turning around, he's surprised to see someone approaching him from behind. His expression changes to shock as he recognizes the girl from earlier. He silently wonders why she's suddenly shown up here, especially when no one should have followed him. The girl stops in front of him and hesitantly asks if he's the dark priest, clearly confused. Jin Eon stares back, unsure of what she knows or why she's here, as they both stand in the forest clearing. It's been a month since Jin Eon received the mark from the demon god, and he reflects on the progress he's made. His stats screen appears, showing his name, class, talents, and traits, emphasizing how unique and dangerous his abilities are becoming. He notes that most talents are usually limited by time, but his seem permanent, likely due to their demonic nature. With his current progress, he believes he might soon unlock even the hidden domain, a powerful area sealed to most. Just then, he's distracted by a girl moving quickly through the forest, seemingly in the middle of her own training routine. The girl confirms something, causing the red-haired boy to flinch slightly and respond awkwardly. He thinks to himself that she doesn't seem to recognize him as a priest, which might be for the best. He reflects on how her misunderstanding is reasonable, considering the common view of demon god priests. The girl watches him silently, her expression calm and unreadable. The boy contemplates the consequences if she did suspect he was a heretic, realizing it could lead to serious trouble. She addresses him politely, and he responds with a confident smile, reassuring her that he has no intention of harming her. The girl calmly states that she's only acting on someone else's orders to protect him, making her purpose clear and neutral. She asks him to treat her with the same courtesy, suggesting she's not looking for conflict. The boy accepts her presence, but casually gives her a task, asking for water. She silently complies, showing no objection and walking off to fulfill the request. He smiles apologetically, pretending to be tired, and offers an excuse to avoid the chore himself. As she walks away, he watches her and notes how she's unexpectedly easy to manage. She calls back for him to hurry up, and he agrees, thinking to himself that this arrangement might work out. The two sit quietly under the shade of a tree as the boy reflects on his goals, preparing to resume training. He grips his sword and reminds himself to hurry and conquer the hidden domain, hoping the girl won't bother him during it. He recalls past advice about the hidden domain being essential to mastering survival in the outskirts. The mysterious structure of the domain appears in his thoughts, reinforcing its significance in his journey. He approaches the girl and respectfully addresses her, intending to clarify her role and his expectations. She responds bluntly, explaining that her presence ensures he stays focused on training and doesn't skip out, emphasizing discipline. He casually offers her a chance to sit down and join him in having some tea, trying to appear friendly. She coldly refuses, stating that her job is to monitor him, not to enjoy leisure time together. He teases her with a smirk, suggesting that her strictness might be because she's fond of him. She firmly denies it, calling him a liar and glaring at him with suspicion. He tries to joke again, asking if she hates him that much, but she remains unimpressed. Her expression turns serious, revealing she sensed demonic energy on him earlier and has been wary ever since. He quickly raises his hands, explaining that his actions were meant to avoid her unnecessary concern, not deceive her. She hesitates silently, deep in thought, while he politely urges her to speak her mind. She responds with a sharp look, warning him not to underestimate her strength or her intentions. He nervously laughs off the warning, suggesting they stop and return if she's unsure. She replies that she hasn't even begun warming up yet, hinting at her readiness for what lies ahead. With a confident stance, she announces that she'll be accompanying him to the domain after all. He looks surprised but quickly accepts, asking where the domain is as they prepare to leave together. A chilling wind blows through the eerie graveyard, revealing a dark, decrepit castle surrounded by crosses and skulls. As the ominous mist thickens, he identifies it with a heavy breath. It's the domain of the undying, signaling the beginning of a dangerous and supernatural trial. The panel reveals that the area they're heading into once belonged to a powerful necromancer clan. After being wiped out in the human-demon war, the territory became infested with undead soldiers. As the male character recognizes the location, he wonders if Renee is feeling anxious. Despite her composed demeanor, a bead of sweat hints at her concern, suggesting that this upper intermediate labyrinth may be more dangerous than she lets on. The red-haired boy notes that the number of undead soldiers must have increased by now, and bringing Renee might not be such a bad idea strategically. However, he quickly realizes that coordinating movements with her will complicate their escape, especially from a dangerous location like the mansion. He worries that if they're not cautious, Crete will catch wind of their presence, prompting him to offer Renee a way out if she sees this as a burden. The boy warns her that if the Lord discovers she left without permission, there could be serious consequences. Unfazed, she calmly replies that it's fine, she knows a secret exit that can get them out unnoticed. The secret exit turns out to be a concealed path behind the mansion, partially covered by forest and stone walls. She guides him to a small arched opening in the wall, revealing the hidden route she mentioned. Surprised, he remarks on how familiar she seems with sneaking out through this exact spot. She stays silent, avoiding his comment, while her body language hints that she's used this escape route more than once. He realizes she must have been sneaking out without Crete's permission, confirming his suspicions. Without pressing further, he urges her to go before it's too late, and together they step forward, vanishing into the outside world. The pair continues their trek through a vast, rocky mountain path surrounded by mist and silence. He asks how much farther they need to travel, trying to gauge the distance with a light-hearted tone. She pauses, then admits she rarely leaves the territory and isn't familiar with the area beyond. She points ahead, indicating their destination is just over the nearby ridge, reassuring him they're close. As they walk, a small rock shifts underfoot, hinting they're approaching constructed terrain. They both stop as the path ends at worn steps, confirming they've reached the entrance. They pause near the ruins as strange, echoing noises rise from within, putting them on alert. Both stare down at the crumbled terrain below, where the eerie sounds intensify from within the stone structures. Renee identifies the source as Cerberus pups, while her companion misinterprets the term, confused by its aggressive tone. He silently vows to keep his identity as Asen's successor hidden from Renee and focuses on the path ahead. Maintaining his composure, he suggests they begin digging in a specific spot, confident it's the correct location. As they uncover the ground, ancient markings appear beneath the rubble, confirming to him that the entrance lies just below the statue. He offers to lead the way down the stairs, but she firmly insists on going first, taking charge of the descent. As they proceed into the dark passage, flickering torchlight illuminates the stone walls, hinting at the path ahead. He looks around, slightly surprised, noting that the underground chamber is far more spacious than he had expected. She points toward a direction deeper into the labyrinth, confidently stating that they've arrived at the correct location. As they look ahead, a vast, eerie structure emerges before them, surrounded by a mystical glow. He silently acknowledges that this labyrinth is far more advanced than anything from the bear's family. He looks around the eerie surroundings and estimates there are over 100 graves scattered across the chamber. Without hesitation, she steps forward with her sword ready, volunteering to lead while he supports her with a confident yes. Suddenly, a massive skeletal hand bursts from the ground beneath them, signaling the start of a deadly confrontation. Dozens of undead soldiers rise from the ground, their skeletal forms glowing with eerie blue energy as they assemble for battle. Surrounded by the advancing undead, the two prepare for a desperate fight, weapons drawn and backs to each other. With tension high, he turns to her and says he's relying on her, placing his trust in her strength amid the growing threat. She calmly affirms his trust, her gaze unwavering as the enemy closes in around them. Gripping her sword tightly, her body begins to radiate a fierce blue energy, signaling the unleashing of her true power. With a fierce roar, she lunges into the enemy ranks, cutting through the undead with overwhelming force and explosive energy. He confidently declares that coming together was the right decision and warns her that a necromancer caster is likely commanding the undead from the back. As she clears a path with a devastating attack, he raises his sword, vowing to follow right behind her and take down the caster. A pile of shattered bones and armor suddenly reassembles, glowing ominously with necrotic energy. She turns sharply in alarm, realizing the skeletons are reviving right before her eyes. A sinister skeletal figure with glowing red eyes chants a warning, declaring that entering without a sword is a grave mistake. The necromancer emerges, cloaked in dark flames, issuing the command to eliminate the intruders, summoning more undead warriors. Amid the chaos, the two fighters realize that the enemies keep reviving due to the necromancer's influence, identifying him as the core threat. He urges the girl to keep pushing ahead, determined to hold the line no matter what. She turns in surprise, not fully understanding his resolve. A skeletal soldier lunges at him from the side, and he quickly raises his arm to block the attack, straining to hold his ground. With swift retaliation, he counters and crushes the skull of the attacker, showing his grit and refusing to fall back. He declares he's found a better way to strike their enemies, standing confidently amidst fallen skeletons. She nods firmly, acknowledging his lead and readying her glowing sword. Without hesitation, she launches herself into the air toward the enemy caster, her body slicing through the dark energy in a powerful charge. The caster, sensing the threat, quickly commands the undead to block her path, his energy crackling as the skeletons surge forward to intercept. The undead caster raises a glowing red orb, channeling dark power as he commands the battlefield with eerie authority. He realizes the key to ending the fight lies in reaching that caster and destroying the orb he's holding. With urgency, he thinks to himself that if they just shatter the orb, everything will be over, and now is the perfect time to activate his newly unlocked ability. A hulking skeletal warrior charges with a roar, glowing red eyes locked onto the approaching threat as it readies its deadly strike. He grits his teeth, realizing the caster's defense won't be easily breached, and calls out in desperation to his teammate. She shouts back with fierce determination, channeling every ounce of strength to break through the overwhelming enemy force. She slashes through the advancing skeletons with a surge of blue energy, shattering them into fragments across the battlefield. He watches in awe as the explosion clears a path, leaving behind the remains of their fallen enemies. The skill position swap Roman 2, designate activates, glowing with power as he prepares to execute a sudden strategic move. He launches through the air with precise momentum, targeting the caster who still clutches the glowing orb. As he closes in, he mentally activates his skill and explains that Position Swap EI's new ability allows him to switch between objects. The command Position Swap Roman 2 swap is executed, initiating the ability just in time for a critical exchange. The skeleton mage stares in confusion as the orb in his hand vanishes mid-glow, caught off guard by the sudden disappearance. The young warrior appears mid-air, successfully clutching the glowing orb with a confident smile and a triumphant shout, having executed the swap perfectly. The caster recoils in horror, realizing the orb is no longer in his possession, his expression darkening with dread. The orb's destruction sends a violent shockwave, tearing through the skeletal minions as their bodies crack and collapse under the dark energy backlash. As bones scatter across the battlefield, the warrior raises his fist in triumph, declaring their success to the lady beside him. The two teammates share a moment of relief and celebration, their victory clear as they smile at one another amidst the settling dust. A somber reflection follows. He silently thanks someone or something, the weight of recent events visible on his face. He acknowledges that the chaos stemmed from the very settings he once designed, and now, with guilt in his heart, he hopes the fallen souls can finally rest. Adele gently calls out, his expression soft, signaling a moment of transition after the battle has ended. When asked if there's anything left to do, he confirms that the next step is to claim the reward awaiting them. His thoughts light up with hope as he looks toward the glowing chest. He's finally about to obtain the item he came for. The treasure chest reveals two items: the Fang of Darkness, a powerful dagger with anti-magic and spirit-slaying abilities, and the Eternal Full Moon, a ring that boosts stats and grants immunity to poison and mind control. Adele is impressed by the items, recognizing how they align with his current needs and potential growth. He decides to keep the dagger, believing it will help him use his darkness-based powers more effectively. Considering the ring next, He admits it's useful, but not essential for him. Lady offers to take the ring if Adele doesn't need it, and he agrees without hesitation. With mutual understanding, they split the treasure. Adele gets the dagger, and Lady takes the ring. As they finalize the exchange, Lady gently steps forward, signaling something more personal is about to follow. She gently places the ring on her finger, activating a mysterious glow as energy surges through it. Surprised by the immediate reaction, her eyes widen in shock, sensing the power flowing into her. Embarrassed, she instinctively steps back and clutches her chest, uncertain about what just happened. Adele, confused by her sudden reaction, wonders if he made a mistake in how he helped her wear the ring. As the magical energy stabilizes, she examines her glowing hand, clearly impressed by the power. Smiling, she expresses how incredible the ring feels, and Adele is pleased to see her satisfied. He gleefully collects gold coins from the chest, finally getting the reward he had been waiting for. Just as he starts to celebrate, the gold spills over, and he's briefly overwhelmed by the sheer amount. She laughs at his excitement, noting how he's easily distracted despite their mission's importance. After gathering the treasure, they both head back to the mansion to regroup and rest. He spends the following days either reviewing his stats or focusing on training his mana abilities. Once his growth stabilizes, he checks his status screen, confirming successful progress in his skills and power. Later, he and Dexy are summoned by Surfy, suggesting the start of a new chapter or mission. Surfy announces that it's time for them to enter Katina, signaling the next phase of their mission. The main character acknowledges that the time has arrived, both physically and mentally prepared. Surfy checks if they've completed all preparations, and both confidently respond that they have. She reminds them to keep an eye out and not hesitate to ask for help if needed during the upcoming challenges. Dexy silently processes the advice, appearing deep in thought or slightly anxious. As they prepare to leave, she exchanges a glance with Surfy, showing unspoken understanding. The protagonist steps forward, determined, as Surfy grants them official permission to proceed with their mission. Surfy calls Adele's name with a serious tone, giving him a final moment of acknowledgement before departure. He expresses his hope that Adele performs well, placing trust in him for what lies ahead. Adele responds with firm confidence, ready to fulfill the expectations placed on him. A bird's eye view shows the busy courtyard where carriages are being prepared for departure. Servants and guards coordinate the travel arrangements as one maid announces that they'll leave immediately. Surfy watches the scene silently from above, quietly observing their progress. Adele walks toward the carriage, reflecting that even if Surfy didn't voice it, he could sense her silent trust in him. Adele reflects silently on his future, burdened by uncertainty yet aware that events have now pushed him toward a clear path. He reaffirms his determination to fulfill his purpose in Satan, igniting a fiery sense of resolve within. The carriage rolls out through the forest path, wheels clattering as the party officially departs on their journey. The sound of hooves and wheels grows louder, emphasizing the beginning of a significant new chapter. Adele sits quietly inside the carriage, noticing an awkward silence hanging in the air. He observes his companion, who hasn't spoken since they left, and wonders if he may have offended her. Despite the silence, he realizes she seems calmer and more composed than before, leaving him a bit confused but curious. Adele tries to break the silence with a cheerful comment about the weather, attempting to lighten the mood during the carriage ride. The girl silently questions his ability to read the room, finding his optimism confusing and oddly timed given their circumstances. She wonders if Adele is truly a knight, surprised by how casually he behaves despite their serious mission. Feeling awkward, Adele admits internally that his attempt at conversation may have been a mistake. The girl subtly reacts, glancing away with a conflicted look as magical energy faintly glows around her fingers. She reflects on her emotions, acknowledging that the eternal vow ring seems to have awakened something within her heart. Confused and vulnerable, she tries to understand what kind of feelings are stirring inside her and what Adele's presence really means to her now. The girl quietly admits to herself that she's feeling curious, her eyes reflecting a mix of thoughtfulness and confusion. Adele respectfully addresses her, letting her know that they'll be arriving at their destination in an hour. She acknowledges the news calmly, though her expression remains distant and unreadable. Adele notices her subtle reaction and wonders if something is bothering her but hesitates to pry further. As their carriage approaches the academy grounds, the girl silently resolves to focus on the mission ahead. The carriage finally enters the academy's vicinity, with large buildings and open fields stretching across the landscape. They disembark in front of the Grand Academy entrance, greeted by a bustling cityscape, marking the beginning of their new chapter. Adele informs his companion that they've arrived in the capital of the demon realm, the starting point of their new journey. He notes how surprisingly normal the city appears, with nothing outwardly distinguishing it from the human realm. Reflecting on his knowledge, he recalls that demons have unique traits like horns, but elite demons are marked by special tattoos. As they observe the crowd, Adele spots a man with a neck tattoo, identifying him as one of those elite demons. He quickly shifts focus back to the girl, asking if she has any plans or directions now that they've arrived. She reveals they'll have to wait 2 days before the academy opens, so they have time to explore or rest. Without hesitation, she decides they should head to their lodging, signaling the start of their brief stay in the city. Adele notices his companion acting strange and confused, unsure of what she's thinking as they walk through the city. A local woman calls out to her, seemingly recognizing her, but the girl remains quiet and unresponsive. As they approach the registration center, they realize the line is massive, and there's barely any space left to sign up. Adele thinks back to how they hadn't been given any special priority despite their early arrival, frustrated with the disorganized process. Looking around, Adele observes the large structure and busy crowds, amazed by how lively and massive the city of Satan is. At the desk, the clerk shouts for the next person, and Adele steps forward, informing him that they wish to register for entry. The clerk eyes Adele suspiciously and directly questions his identity, doubting that he's a demon. Adele responds with confusion, but the clerk immediately grows hostile, outraged that a mere half-demon would dare attempt registration. Staring at the man's reaction, Adele sighs internally, sensing that his journey in this place will be filled with hardships and prejudice,